Once upon a time there was a giant, and he was a lonely giant because he was the only one of his kind left in the world. He lived in a very, very big house, but it was a browny, kind of grey house with no colour in it at all. But it was surrounded by an enormous garden. You couldn't see the end of the garden from the house. And around the garden was a very high wall, so high that no one could look over the wall. The giant lived in his house, and he never went visiting anybody, and he never had visitors himself. He was a bit of a bad-tempered giant. But one day, he got an invitation from his friend, the ogre, who lived on the other side of the world, and he thought, well, I suppose I'll do a little bit of travelling. So he packed a small valise and he took it down to the garden gate, put his big rusty key in the gate, click, opened the gate, slammed it and locked it, and off he went to visit his friend, the ogre. Now, while he was away, and he was away a long, long time, a tree that was growing outside the wall grew a branch that touched the wall. Two children from the village started trotting up to the tree. They started to climb the tree. They wondered what was over the wall. Children always wonder what's on the other side of a wall. They reached the branch and they crawled across and they sat on top of the wall and they looked at the garden. Well, they didn't really notice that the small stream was choked up with weeds, that the lake was now dry but surrounded by really wet marsh, that everything was brown and grey and there were no flowers and all the trees had no leaves and were stunted and stumped. What they saw was an adventure playground. The boy said, "Hey, see that tree over there? We could tie a rope to that tree and we could turn it into a swing." "Great idea," said the girl. "And see those bushes over there? What we could do, we could make a den in those bushes." "Great," said the boy. "Let's go and get the others." So they went down to the town and they got all their friends, and soon all the children in the town were queuing up to climb up the tree and jump on the wall and jump down the other side. Soon the garden was full of children playing. Now the trees, who'd been asleep, woke up. "What's that noise? What's that noise? All the running and the shouting." Oh, it's children playing. "We haven't had children playing here since I can't remember, and I'm a very old tree, but I feel a bit odd. I feel a bit joyful. I feel happy. All the children's voices are making me happy." And the branches on all of the trees that had woken up began to grow, and leaves began to sprout from their little twiggy branches. And the grass that was underneath the ground said, "What's that running around? Everybody's running around and stamping on me. I'm going to have a quick look, see what's happening." A blade of grass came up and looked around. Whoa! And went down again, said, "Boys, boys, children are here, and that means games. That means football." And all the grass began to grow. And along with the grass then grew the flowers. Flowers grew of all different colours, reds and yellows, pinks, greens, oranges, purples, blues. And the little stream got up enough courage to run faster and fill the lake. And soon the stream tinkled and bubbled its way along, and small fountains appeared, and springs, and the lake, well, the lake was seen from above by ducks. And the ducks said, "Quack, quack, never seen that before. Quack, quack, want to have a look? Quack, quack, certainly." And the ducks went down to swim in the lake. Well, because of all the flowers, soon bees arrived, and beetles and ants and butterflies. And because of all the insects, more birds arrived. And because the birds were there, the other animals thought, that must be a nice place. And they happened to hop over the wall, and they arrived. Badgers and some nice foxes and some stoats and some otters and some rabbits. And soon that garden was a paradise, with the children playing in it every single day. But good times must end. And they did, because the giant came back. Well, that was a nice visit to the ogre, although I don't like him very much. He got out his big rusty key. He put it in the lock. And I'm glad I'm home. What's going on here? He saw that the garden was full of children. Oi! Get out of my garden! Get off my land, you pesky kids! Oh, the children, they were so frightened when they saw the giant. They turned and ran, some of them running and crying at the same time. They jumped on the tree, they got to the branch, they hopped over the branch, over the wall. But there was one little boy. He was too small to climb the tree. Wait for me, wait for me. And he just stood there crying. The giant looked at him. He'd never seen a crying boy before. What's wrong with him? The giant sneaked up on the little boy. Hey, boy, and poked him with a big finger. Oh, said the boy, oh, stop poking me. What's the matter with you? Why is your face leaking? There's water coming out of it. It's called crying. And I'm crying because all my friends have left me. Oh, well, I wouldn't know anything about that. Here, can I have one of your pieces of water? He put out his big finger and took up a tear and looked at it. Intriguing, interesting. Well, are you going to get out of my garden? The boy looked at the giant and said, No, I think I'd like to stay, actually. Do you mind if I stay? Well, all right, you can stay, but just for a little while. Well, the boy stayed in the garden with the giant. The giant looked at the boy. He'd never seen children before. They're funny little things. Hey, you, it's time to go home. And he picked up the boy by the back of the collar and threw him out of the garden. I'm glad to see the back of them. Nobody is allowed to share my garden. Nobody. Well, looking around, I must say, things have changed around here. Lovely flowers and, oh, the stream's flowing. Oh, look at all those ducks on the lake. And the trees looking very healthy. Yes. I think I'll sit here and enjoy my garden by myself. So he sat down in the chair and enjoyed his garden. But then winter came, and the snows fell, and snows filled up the whole of the garden. They filled up the garden so much that the giant began to miss the flowers. Outside of the garden walls, the winter lasted 6 months. Inside of the garden walls, the winter lasted all year. What's the matter with this garden? Said the giant. Why won't anything grow any more? I look out this window every day, and all I see is snow. What about the other window? I haven't looked out that side for a long time. He went to the back window. He made a gap in the condensation, and he looked out, and he was shocked. There were children playing round the back. They'd got in another way. But when the giant looked again, he saw that around the place where the children were playing, the grass was green. There was no snow. There were flowers growing. The trees had leaves. The giant was intrigued. Oh, what's happened there? He went out, he put on his scarf and hat, and he went out and he strode over to that side of the garden. The children saw him, and they scrambled up the tree and hopped over. But they left one of their friends. It was that boy, the boy from last time. And the giant said, It's you again, the crying boy. Yeah, well, I'm crying again. Listen, boy, maybe I was a bit harsh before. Why do you think the grass is growing? Well, maybe it's because the children are playing here. I think you're right, little boy. I think you're right. You can play in my garden. Yes, said the boy. Well, that means you can be my friend. Friend, said the giant. Friend. You'll be my friend? Yes, said the boy. Well, all right, friend. The first thing you should do, hop over the wall and tell all the children they can play in my garden. See you later, friend. Well, the giant went back and sat in his chair outside his front door. The children came in and they played all over the garden. They didn't go near the giant at first. They were a bit scared of him, but soon they started to creep up and they admired him. They admired his massive hands and his massive nose and his massive feet. Well, the giant enjoyed watching the children play. Soon, he decided to do something. He got up, he got a big hammer, and he bashed down the whole wall around the garden. And after that, not only did the children come, but the parents came as well to play with their children and to walk arm in arm by the now beautiful lake. The giant liked watching all the people enjoy his garden. And year after year after year after year they came. But the giant now was getting older and older and older. And one summer, while he was sitting in his chair, he opened his eyes and he looked down and he saw that boy again, the little boy. And he said, "You've come back." "Yes," said the boy, "I've come back." "But you're supposed to be an adult now, a grown-up, maybe even a granddad." "No," said the boy. "Why are you here?" said the giant. And the boy said, "I'm here to take you away." "Where are you going to take me?" said the giant. "I'm going to take you to another garden, a garden that's as good as this one, if not better. Will you come with me?" "Yes, yes, I will," said the giant. And the boy grabbed his finger and led him out of the garden. He took one last look back and then left with the boy. He wasn't a selfish giant anymore. And that is the end of the story.